Hello and welcome to the Patriot Hippie Podcast. My name is Zach.
Wait.
You're
that's
Dan.
Not true. I'm Zach.
Oh, that's right. So welcome to the Patriot Hippie Podcast. Just a note before we get started, folks. There is strong adult language in this podcast.
In 3, 2, 1, fuck. There you are. Explicit content.
Do not listen to this at work, please. It's too late now if you're at this point.
Are we in an SFW channel?
We could be. Never mind. So yes, thank you for clicking on this video. If you'd like to follow along with what happens throughout the week, when it's not Wednesday, when you're not listening to the beautiful Patriot Hippie Podcast, please go over to Instagram and follow the Personal Freedom Network. That is where we have all of the main interactions with the world. It's where we publish updates about the show. And yeah. So thank you. And let's send it off to the us's.
All right. Well, hi, Dan.
Hi, Zach. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well.
Welcome to the Patriot Hippie Podcast, episode
5.
5?
Yeah.
5. Are we counting?
We are. There's been a lull. I did end up posting episode 4 on Spotify. I got that figured out, but I never got around.
Spotify. We are moving up in the world. We are on Spotify now.
The upper echelon of audio sharing platforms.
Did you put all of them on Spotify or just 4 and up?
No, I've got to turn them back into MP3s because right now 1, 2, and 3, 0, 1, 2, and 3 are videos, and I have to.
Well, let's not worry about 0, 1, 2, and 3.
Let's just. We started at 4.
Let's start at 4.
Yeah.
Because that's when we got the formula figured out.
That's true. That works.
So this is episode 4/2 of the Patriot Hippie Podcast. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm staying busy. Done with this semester.
Yes, that's finished first year of high school of college.
High school, yeah, and
we are sophomores now.
And it was awful, but you know.
How were your finals?
Pretty bad. I legitimately failed one of them.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's alright though.
Well, you know, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yahweh, you know.
Did you pass the class?
I did not.
You did not pass the class
because the final was the only grade. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be kind of hard in that case.
Yeah, it's a rough category of life there.
Well, I made all A's in my classes.
Oh, of course you did.
So,
yeah.
You know, that means I am obviously better than you in every way.
It does, because your grades dictate who you are as a person and your worth.
The numerical value of information I was able to regurgitate was higher than yours.
Right. Yes.
That means I am worth more.
Yeah, and you should get paid more too. And
I should definitely get paid more. I should have more opportunities in life.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, I should just, you know, I'm an elite.
Yeah,
I deserve it. I'm entitled.
Right, of course. Sorry, I don't mean to keep talking over you because you're so much better than me.
You're right. So that's why you should just stay silent. You know, barefoot in the kitchen. Where all you F people are.
Yeah, you know what? I'm okay with that. That's my station in life, and I believe if I do well and I collect enough good karma here, maybe I'll in my next life.
Moksha.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's a theory.
I'll step up in my next incarnation.
Maybe you'll come back as a C student in your next life.
Maybe even a D.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
All right, but enough shit talking about Dan. So, if you listened to last week's, you know that we have changed our format a little bit to 6 separate categories. So even though I presented these categories last week, I'm going to do them again.
Very good.
We have Music Choice of the Week, our favorite new things, why we love them, and what we love. Then we have what's been bugging us lately.
Mm-hmm.
And to counteract that with a little bit of good stuff, we've got what are we grateful for recently.
I just popped my
Next,
shoulder. I'm grateful for that.
are you grateful for that? That's amazing.
That's good.
Next, we have movie slash show reviews. And that one, I've got a banger. So let's hope that one comes up.
I'm sure we will talk about it. I think we're probably got the same thing on our list here.
The same thing?
We'll see what happens. We'll see.
Maybe.
We should definitely talk about it, regardless of the spinner.
Sure. Politics and current events. What's new, and how do we feel about them?
Yes.
And then morals and philosophy. What's on our minds lately? All right, so are you ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
All right, so we've got a 6-sided die on Google pulled up here. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll that once, and we'll see here. It's 4, so let's see what that is. That is politics and current events. Starting off.
All right, take it away. I'll let you go first.
Okay. So here's the thing. I was hanging out with Michael the other day. Don't worry, we've been socially distanced. We've both been quarantined in separate houses. We just, because due to a lack of extremely new cases in our area, we've limited our social distancing to not just quarantine, but a tight-knit group of people, which I think is acceptable.
Yes, it's the process of stepping back into society.
Sure. But I was hanging out with Michael, and we started watching videos of Joe Biden just being his Joe Biden-y self.
Oh, Sleepy Joe.
And I was a huge Bernie advocate. I still am. If he's still on the ballot, I'm going to vote for him. But Joe Biden smells people, specifically little girls, and caresses them and hugs them and kisses them in a way that I am not comfortable with. This man...
But he's a Democrat, so nothing will happen about it.
Regardless, there's a lot of shit that Trump does that the Republican Party won't bring up. But regardless, I have a problem with the blue no matter who crowd because I don't, if you want to be morally disengaged and vote in a person based on, how you think their policies are going to be, regardless of their predatory behavior, that's fine, but at least stay consistent,
Yeah.
Because these are the same people who are calling for Brett Kavanaugh to not be inducted, for every allegation that has ever come out about any sort of Republican. They've wanted them immediately out of there.
Right, and it's got nothing to do with what's morally right. It is just getting your team ahead. That's all it's about.
Now that being said, there is a difference between actual sexual assault allegations and being on video touching young girls. It's a fine line, but it's not one that I'm willing to really just throw the baby out with the bathwater on.
The difference is between Brett Kavanaugh and Joe Biden. Turns out all that stuff about Brett Kavanaugh was fake. So,
and according to whom?
According to Christine Blasey Ford, who came out and said that she was paid to do it, and now she's being indicted. They're looking at getting her for lying under oath.
Let's see. This is... I see her letter accusing him. I see... Well, if my internet will behave, I'll see more, but, I see nothing about... Yeah, here we go. This is factcheck.org. Ford did not recant accusations against Kavanaugh. Comments by President Trump may have left that impression, but he was referring to a little-known case that had nothing to do with Ford. During a rally in Missouri the night before the midterm elections, President Donald Trump said that the accuser of Brett Kavanaugh has admitted she never met him, never saw him. It was a false accusation. It was a scam. It was a fake. Let's see. It is certainly understandable that some assumed Trump was talking about Ford when he referred to the accuser of Brett Kavanaugh. Ford was by far the most publicly identified Kavanaugh accuser, and the only person to personally testify on the Senate Judiciary Committee, an event watched by millions around the country. Ford said Kavanaugh. So
not her.
Not her.
Okay.
I do remember something specific about somebody who did jump on the bandwagon and then recanted it. But yeah, Ford has not changed her story.
Okay.
But in conclusion, Joe Biden's creepy, and nobody's willing to talk about it. There's this one video I saw. Let's see if I can find it. He was talking about he'd sit somewhere in the sun with his legs out in shorts and whatnot, and he'd love it when the kids would rub his leg hair and make it go down, and then it'd stand back up.
Oh no.
Yeah, he said, those kids would sit on my lap.
Joe.
Here it is. This is Snopes. Did Joe Biden mention his hairy legs in public remarks? Yes. Let's see. Where's the full thing? Oh, come on. Fucking internet. A short video supposedly shows former Vice President Joe Biden talking about his hairy legs in his youth during a public address. As a teenager in the summer of 1962. Oh, here we go. I was a kid from suburbia. Biden, who lived in Mayfield, Delaware at the time, told the audience, I wanted to get more involved, and I realized I lived in a neighborhood where I'd turn on the television and see and listen to Dr. King and others, but I didn't know many black... Oh, wait, why is this in there? But yeah, it's funny. If you haven't seen it, just look up Joe Biden leg hair. You will find it. Yeah. It's so creepy.
Joe Biden, I would venture to say, is less fit to be president than the current dude.
If it's down to both of them, I don't know, man.
God. I mean, I'm. If it's down to either one of them, I pick Trump because I feel like we know what happens there. Fucking Joe Biden might accidentally launch a missile.
Let's see. I'm gonna try and play this. See if it'll play. Oh, we can't. I'm not gonna put ads in here because we don't want to be. We don't want ads.
We don't want to be stricken for advertising for someone else.
Okay, let's see. Oh my god, I cannot find the actual thing. Where is it?
Biden's known for saying...
There we go.
And by the way, I sit on the stand, and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Oh, Joe. That's not
So what about you? What political things are you on about lately?
I'm on about Obamagate.
Obamagate. What is this?
So recently,
What news lately?
With the Michael Flynn being having the charges dropped against him because the FBI director at the time had in the notes that were taken during Flynn's prosecution initially, there were things written in the margins about making him say this and pausing stuff and, forcing Flynn to testify, which did come out that his testimony was coerced, and that's why the charges were dropped. So then President Trump came out and said that this is obviously Obama's doing, and it's all this was all part of the Democrat plot to make me not win the election, and if I did win, they're gonna take me down. And I don't know. I think probably. The Steele dossier, which is the real Russian collusion here, was paid for by the Clinton administration. Clinton campaign, to get dirt on Trump. So, he's got a point about there's a lot of heat to try to get him out of office. It's true. That's been, since he was elected, the first thing that anyone said was, we're going to impeach that son of a bitch. That's like the famous first words of Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Mm-hmm.
Before there was anything to impeach him over. So they have a history of jumping to the conclusion and then finding evidence to match it instead of letting the evidence guide them. And Trump's thing is this was all part of Obama's plan to take him down, not let him be president, not let him be his successor. So
that's I'm definitely gonna have to do research into that, because this is the first I've heard about it. I saw something on my YouTube feed that said Obamagate, Daily Show covers, because I used to like the Daily Show before it was Trevor Noah. Now it just shows up in my YouTube feed without my permission. So
but
yeah, it's definitely something that I think political, the attempt to dig up shit for a sitting president, for a sitting administration, is not new.
No.
Is not, completely isolated to the Trump administration. And something that I've sort of been marinating on is I don't know if it is a matter of it being him or just a matter of it being any president who would be sitting right now would be under the same sort of, vitriol and rancor.
I think it's him, because he rubs everyone the wrong way. He's a very sandy guy.
I don't know, because even back in 2016 when Hillary was running, there were inklings of the same shit going on the other side.
Right.
You had people burning effigies of Hillary Clinton and, trying to dig up anything in order to send her to prison and make her lose the election. So politics has become such a dirty game on either side that I don't think you can really say it's special for Trump. I think he wants it to be special for him because I think he wants to be important.
Right. And
I think that's the biggest thing he's obsessed with his entire administration is leaving a legacy. No matter whether that's good or bad, he wants to be remembered as the president who did insert anything here. Everything he's done has been for self-service and longevity of his name,
I think that is a lot of the where the Republican Party is kind of stuck with Trump. They don't know what to do with it because you get him saying things like, he'll just tweet Obamagate. Well, what does that mean? And then someone asks him, what exactly are you accusing Obama of doing? He says, you know what the crime is. The crime is very obvious to everybody. All you have to do is read the newspapers, except yours. This was...
And by that he means all you need to do is watch Fox and Friends or Alex Jones.
Well, right, so there's things to be said. But the way that Trump goes about saying stuff
is
awful.
Regurgitating conspiracy theories he's heard on the internet.
No, not even that. It's he
repeats verbatim Alex Jones podcasts. That cannot be denied. That has been
I don't know.
asserted. That has been seen without a doubt.
I don't listen to Alex Jones or pay attention to Alex Jones. I don't think
Well,
Alex
he
Jones
does.
is well,
apparently Donald Trump does. And that's
that's problematic.
Not concerning to anybody else?
I mean, it doesn't concern me, no. See, if the thing with Trump is he just says shit, which I kind of like. I like that he just says whatever the fuck he wants. He doesn't give a shit.
Why would you? Okay, I'll let you finish.
If it's going to be offensive to anyone, he just says what he thinks, and it's like an open stream of consciousness, which, at least you know what he's thinking. Now, if Obama were to say something like...
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
He's not thinking. It's why should I be impressed with a man who is speaking off the cuff regardless of the consequences? That's fine when it's, a trucker in a gas station talking to another trucker buddy, but this man is the most powerful man in the free world. His words carry more weight than yours or mine. I can sit here and say whatever the fuck I want, and nobody's probably going to listen to it. But,
Yeah, that's true. But he's the first citizen of the U.S. That is the president's role. So he represents the mentality of the U.S. And I think that's the departure that we're all seeing in America, is we don't want to be... the large majority of America doesn't want to be loud and open stream of consciousness anymore. Want to be a little bit more secluded and kind to one's neighbor kind of thing. So... and that's what I was getting at with that's the problem with the Republicans, because the Republicans, most of the Republican congressmen at Obamagate were just like, I mean, yeah, you've got a point, but shut up. Like, no one cares.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Everyone, it's a dirty game. You can't, it's dumb. And the thing is, the Republicans in Congress get that. But I don't think the Democrats in Congress get that. And that's what bugs me about this Obamagate thing. They're going to make fun of him for it.
Sure, and that's, it's reprehensible for certain. And I'd be the first one to say, hey, Democrats, don't, if you live in a glass house, don't throw stones.
Right, for sure.
But that goes both ways. If you're a Republican and you want to dig up dirt on the Democrats, I think you should examine the house you're living in.
Yeah.
If
you're going to start that battle, you better be willing to fight it.
Yeah.
And don't get upset when someone fires back.
Sure. But I think we've spent enough time on politics.
And the hypocrisy of the two-party system.
Exactly.
Contradictions. Right. Roll the dice.
We'll roll the dice.
All right.
Well, the singular die. We got 3.
3? What's 3?
This is movie reviews, new movies or shows. All right. Do you want to say it or do I want to say it?
Let's.
Because I think we're saying the same thing.
I think so. On 3. 1, 2,
3.
Psychedelics.
The Midnight Gospel.
Oh, wait. What was that?
The Midnight Gospel.
No, I don't know.
Or were you talking about the documentary? Have
a good trip.
Okay, well, I watched that too, so that was second on my list.
And second on my list is Hollywood, but All right, talk to me about what's that?
Okay, The Midnight Gospel.
Midnight Gospel.
It is animated and directed by the same guy who did Adventure Time, Pendleton Ward.
Okay.
But it is based off of the podcast by Duncan Trussell, the Duncan Trussell Family Hour.
Mm-hmm.
And it's incredible because it takes these... It takes the podcast format and it animates it. So you have these incredible stark backdrops of, the in-world characters who are moving from point A to point B throughout these dying worlds.
Uh-huh.
And so this guy, Clancy, voiced by Duncan Trussell, is interviewing people for a space podcast on these dying worlds. But the people are played by different figures in psychedelics, meditation, Eastern religion, death acceptance is one of them, a proponent of death acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's an incredibly thought-provoking, interesting, and really just soul-feeding show for me, especially because it marks for me something that I see as a new wave of sort of psychedelic thinking, very much akin to what we've seen in the 60s, which is awesome because that
was a good time.
Something. If you know me, this is
the 60s is important.
The 60s is important to me.
Yeah.
A time of extreme freedom and expression, while also, dealing with various social issues that are present,
Right.
But yes, Have a Good Trip.
Have a Good Trip was really fun.
It was.
In case you're wondering what Have a Good Trip is, it is a bunch of A-list celebrities, a couple...
Including the drummer for the Grateful Dead.
Carrie Fisher and Anthony Bourdain, so two people who are no longer with us.
Then Sting.
Sting, right.
I liked his... this is in the first 5 minutes, so it's not really ruining anything.
Yeah.
I loved his peyote story about delivering the calf.
Right, that was so good.
That's so good, because, imagine being there, tripping off your ass, and witnessing this miracle of nature.
The miracle of birth.
Right.
Of life coming to be. Which, he's talking about the soul thing, and psychedelics is enhancing your ability to contemplate morality.
Mortality.
Morality. No, not that.
Well, both.
I guess.
I think. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Depends on what you're looking for.
It's all about your starting point. Which,
But yeah, without ruining anything, I cannot recommend either of these enough.
Yeah. Definitely hop on Netflix when you finish this show and watch Have a Good Trip. It's only an hour and a half or so it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
All right, are we ready to roll the dice again?
Yeah, let's roll the dice.
The die. I keep saying dice because that's you usually have two.
Yeah.
So
you're not usually just holding one acorn.
Yeah. All right. So we've got 5. What is 5?
What is 5?
Morals and philosophy. What's been on our minds lately? Do you want to take the lead on this?
Yeah,
one?
I'll go first here. So I had a huge list of things written out about this, but we'll see if I can remember it because I didn't save it. But the header to my inscription was called "Egalitarianism is bullshit."
That's hilarious because you know what mine is?
What?
The fact that I just started reading the Communist Manifesto.
I know, yeah, I saw that on your story, and I kind of chuckled, and I thought about this moment right now. So, I said egalitarian is bullshit, and okay, so what is egalitarianism? Egalitarianism is the concept that everyone is equal, so everyone ought to be treated equal, and it is about equality. Egal being a Latin root for equal. So favors equality. People should get the same, be treated the same, and in all aspects of life. So
usually something that a lot of people say they agree with.
Right.
Correct.
And I've been watching a lot of new media on Netflix and Prime recently because
shout out to Netflix for cranking out nonstop bangers this entire quarantine.
For real. And a couple of times I've heard the term egalitarian, or the egalitarian philosophy referenced, and every time I heard it, I've known what the philosophy is, and I understood it from I don't know, for the past 5 years I've known what it is, but I've never really thought about it beyond people ought to be treated equally. That makes sense. But then I sat down and I started reading some philosophy reviews and different kind of opinions about it, and I got to thinking, this doesn't make any sense.
Elaborate.
Of course people ought to be treated differently, but what does that mean? And the big question that comes up in equality is it equality of opportunity or equality of outcome? And then that is the differing opinion that pushes egalitarianism to the left or right of the political spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And
of the philosophical spectrum. It's important.
Yeah.
It's important to not to differentiate between political conservatism and liberalism and philosophical conservatism and liberalism.
Right.
Because with politics, it's become such a game of, policy and power, whereas in philosophy, it's about, what do we actually think is important in pursuing truth,
Yeah. Okay. Good point.
And I like this topic, and I'll present a counterpoint in a second, but go ahead and...
Right. So this idea then evolved in my mind that, if everyone is supposed to... if you have equality of opportunity, ideally you should be able to make the same things, right? And so, how does that intersect with Marxism and communism? Jumping off that, if everyone is to receive the bounty of the people according to their labor, does that mean that if you're not putting in enough, you won't be equal? So you can't have egalitarianism in a Marxist society because it's not equality of opportunity, because everyone had the same opportunities, right? We all started from the same place. But it's kind of it can't exist in any ideological world, and it just turns out to be just a wall to hide behind. And you're I believe in human rights. Everyone should be equal. And I think it has kind of lost its vision. What is the goal of egalitarianism? Mm-hmm. So I think when people call themselves egalitarian, I just think that's bullshit.
Well, there are a couple different ways to tackle that. Because, first of all, from an anthropological point of view, if you talk about an egalitarian society, like certain tribes in Central Africa, in different proto-civilizations down in South America, the very non-developed tribal system, you would consider that egalitarian, not because everybody is, given a certain thing. It's not based on people having access to jobs or money or power or status or any of that. It's pretty much it's just saying, if you need water, you have water. If you need food, you will have food. Nobody's going to be deprived of the basic things you need to live. And in egalitarian societies, no one person is held to a higher esteem because of birth, because of who they are. A better hunter might be held to a higher esteem because they are a better hunter, but there is evidence of certain tribes in Africa that dissuade even holding somebody to a higher esteem because of their actions. Some of them will take a haughty hunter who has killed a giant lion and make him eat last, or not make him eat last, but let him eat first, and then make fun of him and mock him and put him down because he's getting too cocky. Because anybody in his position could have killed the same lion if, you know what I mean? And that's one thing, and I know what you're thinking, and that's one thing to do that in a small tribal system, but then how do you translate that to a civilization of 300 million people?
Right, a massive civilization.
And that gets trickier. But it's something that I've picked up on in reading Marx is the assertion that we're all created equal, therefore we all must produce the exact same amount in order to keep up, is not really the point. The point is there is the big assertion put in bold at the beginning of the Communist Manifesto is that the history of mankind is of a class struggle between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, a class struggle, and then saying that the modern version of the class struggle is between a simplified version of those in power and those not in power, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, the person who can control labor and can, has available resources to create capital, whereas the proletarian does not have the means to provide for themselves. Therefore, they have to sell their labor and have to live off of a job. Any one of us that can't fly in a private jet to Detroit every morning like the CEO of Ford would be considered a proletarian. And so, how I sort of look at egalitarianism is that there's no way you can really enforce equality of outcome. And I don't even think that's what Marx was implying.
Right.
I think what Marx was implying is that in order to, and he even said the practical application, it's, bold-faced as well in the preface, that the practical application, even after he was reading a new translation in 1888, was going to be completely different than it was when he had first envisioned it, because modernism has set this train going that has us exponentially, racing towards this crazy epoch where the system's going to break down. Eventually, he says, it's going to break down, and it really depends on when it happens, how it happens,
Right.
And so I sort of interpret the egalitarian model as something that's an ideal to look for. I don't think anybody in the right mind would say somebody doesn't deserve to, have something, or somebody doesn't deserve to be smarter if they're born smarter. If you're born smarter than somebody else, you're going to be smarter. That's a God-given fact. Mm-hmm. You're not going to change somebody's intelligence by saying, your intelligence is oppressive to people who are not as intelligent, even though that's where I kind of fear things are going, because the practical application of Marxism has gone completely off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
So egalitarianism, I don't think, is bullshit. I think the way we interpret egalitarianism can sometimes be bullshit, but the essential doctrine that everybody deserves to have an equal opportunity for something to happen is an inalienable right. It's listed out in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights.
Sure.
Those are the truths we hold self-evident, that all men are
that is
equal.
The equality that people deserve in an egalitarianism.
No, but it's not equality, it's equity.
Okay.
It's providing people, with, or maybe I have that backwards. It's giving equality is giving people the right starting place. Equity is balancing it out so people end up looking at the same thing. That cartoon, we had economics together in high school. Mm-hmm. The cartoon Miss Will had in the back of her class of the people standing on the boxes. Under equality, it had a really short person standing on one box, a medium-sized person standing on one box, and a really tall person standing on one box. And the really tall person, they were trying to see over a fence into a baseball game. The really tall person could see for miles. The medium person could barely see over the fence, and the really short person was blind. Couldn't see anything. Under equity, it had the short person standing on 3 boxes, the medium-sized person standing on 2 boxes, and the tall person standing on 1 box, because then they could all have equal vision of the game. They all had an equal outcome. And so that's where it gets tricky, because to my mind, the equity model is perfect for a small egalitarian society that's based on communal living. That's why you have hippie communes out there that have been functioning since the 70s, and that's honestly how small religious sects such as the Hutterites, the Amish, the Quakers, even the Mormons to an extent have survived. Is they make sure that they hold themselves to a model that doesn't get too big.
Right. And that's, I guess Marxism and Lockeism, the intersection in egalitarianism isn't ideal, and it can't truly exist in the modern society the way it's structured now. And my thing with it's bullshit is, people don't get that. They confuse the equity, equality, and they don't know what they really want. And they just say they want equality. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything.
Well, and that goes back to a core issue of really any political system or social system at all, which is the sad fact that most of the population is retarded.
True.
That's the reason I have second thoughts about democracy itself, because people are retarded.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what party you vote for. People shouldn't decide.
The mass
one
populace
who is in power. Socrates himself said, by proxy through Plato and the Republic, that democracy, unfettered democracy, is like, a sweet shop owner versus a republic, which would be like a doctor. The sweet shop owner will give you what you want, but will eventually rot your teeth and kill you, whereas the doctor will give you bitter medicine, but for your own good.
Prolong your existence.
And so Socrates said, people would reject the doctor in favor of the sweet shop owner simply because they are uneducated. They don't see that the doctor is actually benefiting them because people are fucking sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and so that's another political thing altogether, is democracy and even the republic, as we have tried to make it happen in America, is failing.
Well, the democracy in America was the issue. I mean, came up with some weird, jump through some 17 different hoops to elect a president thing because everyone was scared of democracy. But we wanted the people to have a choice.
But we shouldn't.
Right. We're how do you devolve that freedom down to the individual, but still
would you
keep the control to keep from electing a potato?
Yeah, would you give the students of an elementary school the power to choose who their principal was?
Exactly. No.
And so I don't condone or admire authoritarianism because, being completely out of touch with your populace is, in and of itself, a worse crime. But it starts with education. It starts with...
Right, you can't be free if you don't know what that looks like.
And so that's a huge problem. The public education system needs reform. The public libraries, Google has made that pretty much obsolete. But things like Galileo, the University System of Georgia, that we use for college should be open to everybody.
Right. You shouldn't have to have a subscription to access all of those publications. And
so it's a matter of educating your public, people. Right. You can't have a democracy without it being somewhat informed. You can't even have a republic without it being somewhat informed.
And that goes beyond knowing what the people you're voting for have to say about an issue. You need to understand the issue on both sides and the reason the issue exists.
Sure, and it's going back to Joe Biden's leg hair. The people should want to know about that, and that's where
weird. That's not sweet old Joe. That's
That's what it boils down to. People don't want to learn.
Right.
People don't want to be educated. So
ignorance is not an excuse.
If we're talking about preserving any sort of system of government, the populace really, if I had my way, would be treated like a child, in that if they didn't want education, they shouldn't get the benefits of being an educated citizen, Yeah. And if you throw your pacifier on the ground, you don't get it back.
Yeah.
To an extent. And I realize that's probably
that's tough, and
it's not really how it would work, but man, sometimes I just want to go, okay,
look,
let's just...
Yeah.
How do you solve that? How do you teach people who don't want to be taught? How do you break through to a system that is built around money worship with a de-emphasis on education?
I don't know. And I think that's the pinnacle thing of... that's what people have been trying to solve that for millennia. How do you get people to want the right thing? There's no answer to that.
Here's something interesting to think about, though. You look at the longest-lasting civilizations in the world. What have they been?
They end up being authoritarian.
Sure. And so, do you sacrifice the longevity and ideal nature of a society in favor of
lasting longer?
Well,
yeah. Go ahead.
Do you sacrifice longevity for liberty, pretty much?
Yeah, and that's something that recently I've thought a lot about, like looking at, a lot of libertarian propaganda, memes and such.
Sure.
People talking about how ridiculous this election cycle is, how ridiculous both sides treating the COVID-19 pandemic. It's boogaloo season. Let's take it back. Let's start from scratch.
So here's the thing. I think it comes down to everybody. Make sure you educate yourself.
Yeah.
Make sure you don't just get your news from liberal cuck dumbass or racism Republican at whatever.
Racism Republican.
Yeah, you have to try and find objective sources, and it takes longer. It does. It's not going to be in your face because you know what? Here's a secret, and here's one of the things where I do agree with a more conservative point of view. The media wants you to be dumb. The media wants you to be sheep because the media doesn't want you to be informed, or the media wants you to be mad.
Right. Media stands for most effective devil in America. Don't let them fool you.
And so, man, I try to think, where do hippies and rednecks intersect?
Freedom.
And honestly, it is in it's in just being.
Yeah, just let me be. Let the tigers tiger, man. Don't try to make tigers do non-tiger things. Just let us be.
But that's contradictory to. It sounds contradictory to what we just said about authoritarianism and how it kind of looks a little bit more.
Which is what I was getting at earlier. I've thought a lot about recently longevity versus liberty, and I've thought to myself, if the cost of being free and the people around me being free is the truly free, not some kind of removed imaginary freedom. If the cost of that is destroying America, I think it's worth it.
You think so?
Right. Because I don't think,
I go back and forth. But I think, if people want an effective government, you have to come to the realization that democracy is not going to produce an effective government.
Right. It can't happen. And, I think it's that constant, how do you solve that problem? Which, it's what I said earlier. No one knows the answer. But whips certainly help.
All right, I think we have time for one more category.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Scroll the bowl.
All right, we've got two. This is what's been bugging us lately. You know what? I think I'm gonna let's override that and finish off on a good note. What are we grateful for?
I am grateful to be back at work. Man, I've been sitting at home for so long, and to just get back out there, be doing stuff. I built some splash guards for my employer.
Sweet.
You know where I work, but we'll keep that a secret.
Let's just say it's fun to stay there.
Yeah. But for the front desk area, had to make some like plexiglass splash screens, sneeze guards.
So people don't get their mucus all over your delicate faces.
That's right. So I built those, and now we're under reduced operating conditions, and it's good to be doing something, to like have a purpose.
Dude, I totally get that.
Beyond even, like enriching my mind, that's still, that's a purpose for me. That's selfish.
That's fun and all, but idle hands are the devil's playthings.
Right.
So, but speaking of that, my thing that I'm grateful for is I recently accepted an opportunity to go back to the city that I had to leave for school.
Really?
After school ended, at a church internship.
Doing what exactly?
So it'll be a bunch of different ministry opportunities to sort of give back to the community, do stuff around the church, do Bible study lessons and whatnot, really try and grow theologically, and just sort of, and they let me live on the church grounds, which is kind of cool and kind of creepy because it's right next to a cemetery. But yeah, it's slightly paid internship, but that slight payment is better than nothing, especially because new jobs and especially because new gigs would not be available because I'm a musician, and that's kind of bullshit when I can't find work. Because all the bars and restaurants are closed down.
Yep.
So
hopefully not for long, though.
Here's your Zach fact of the day. Your Zach fact of the day. I am a Christian hippie who loves pot, Jesus, the Grateful Dead, going to church, philosophy, LSD, and I think homosexuality is not a sin. So,
God bless America.
That is the libertarian credo.
That's it right there. Libertarianism revolves around wanting gay pot farmers to defend their crop with AK-47s.
Exactly.
That's all it is.
So, that's all it is.
That's it.
So you know what, man? I'm looking forward to this. I hope this video doesn't get out to that church, though, because they might not be cool with me talking about LSD and guns and
Jesus, all in the same
and
sentence.
Smoking pot, all in the same, and using the word fuck about 20 million times on the podcast.
Hashtag bong hits for Jesus.
Hashtag bong hits for Jesus.
Well, this was a successful conversation.
This was a good conversation. I enjoy talking with you, Dan.
Yes, sir.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. So, thank you everybody for listening.
You once again, Zach.
And I'm Dan. You can follow me on Instagram at DanIsTheBest_. I post a lot of weird inflammatory things on my story, so you should come follow along.
Yeah, you do. It's kind of off-putting, actually.
It's meant to be.
It's meant to. Okay.
It's meant to make people go, "Oh God, what is this?"
I've many times gone, Dan, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Well, that's what I say.
It's what you do.
That's what I do. I talk until people want to blow their brains out, and then we see what's next.
Why the negativity, man?
Well, because I just like hearing my voice. It's got nothing to do with what I'm saying. I just like talking.
At least you're honest about
it.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up here. Thank you, guys. Remember, if you have any category questions, anything you want to contact us, our email is Dan. What's the email?
It's Patriot Hippie Podcast @gmail.com.
Yes. So, and remember, hippie is spelled HIPPIE. If you spell it with a Y, you're a poser.
Yeah, if you spell it with a Y, you're just a lame guy.
Ah.
All right. Thanks, folks.
Thanks.